Dear students, welcome once again to Angrejimaster, your own YouTube channel. This video is the continuation of part 1 of chapter 4 from the diary of Annie Frank.
In the summer of 1941, Grandma fell ill and had to have an operation, so my birthday passed with little celebration. She tells us that her grandma has to undergo an operation, and because of that, she is unable to celebrate her birthday properly. Grandma died in 1942. No one knows how often I think of her and still love her. The birthday celebration in 1942 was intended to make up for the other, and Grandma's candle was lit along with the rest. Her grandma passes away in 1942 in January. She has fond memories of her grandmother, of course. She has not shared her feelings for her grandmother with everybody. This birthday celebration, as she tells us, is intended to compensate, to make up for the previous one. She ensures that a candle for the grandma is lit along with the others. The four of us are still doing well. And that brings me to the present date of 20 June 1942 and the solemn dedication of my diary. The remaining four members are doing well. They were in good spirits. That is her parents, her elder sister, and she herself. And she tells us that on 20th June 1942, she writes a formal diary page. Saturday, 20 June 1942. Dearest Kitty, our entire class is quaking in its boots. The reason, of course, is the forthcoming meeting in which the teachers decide who will move up to the next form and who will be kept back. Half the class is making bets. GN and I laugh ourselves silly at the two boys behind us, CN and Chatters, who have staked their entire holiday savings on their bet. The setting of this scene is the classroom. Here we see Annie observes all the students of her class. She tells us that everybody is shaking in one's shoes. Every student of her class is nervous for the simple reason the result is going to be announced. There is a meeting which is soon going to happen where the teachers will sit together and decide who has to be retained and who shall be passed and moved to the next class. Almost half of the class is busy making bets. Her friend GN, along with her, laugh in a silly manner at the boys who were betting and actually have staked their entire holiday savings on their bet. From morning to night, it's you are going to pass. No, I am not. Yes, you are. No, I am not. Even G's pleading glances and my angry outbursts can't calm them down. Everybody is busy talking about and guessing, speculating who's going to pass and who's not. Nobody is sure of getting past. So, she further says, if you ask me, there are so many dummies that about a quarter of the class should be kept back. But teachers are the most unpredictable creatures on earth. She opines that almost 1/3 of her class is full of dumb-headed students. They should be kept back, they should be retained. But then, she also makes a statement about the teachers. She tells that they are highly unpredictable. They are in fact the most unpredictable people on earth. So only God knows who's going to pass, who's not, or probably the teachers. I'm not so worried about my girlfriends and myself. We'll make it. The only subject I am not sure about is maths. Anyway, all we can do is wait. Until then, we keep telling each other not to lose heart. Annie is quite confident that she and her girlfriends will be able to make it, they will get through. The only fear which is troubling her is whether she'll pass mathematics exam or not. But all they can do is wait, nothing else. In the meantime, they can only do one more thing, and that is to sympathize each other, to support each other, to tell each other not to lose heart, not to be discouraged. And this was exactly what they were doing. I get along pretty well with all my teachers. There are 9 of them, 7 men and 2 women. She tells that she's got a comfortable relation, a very good rapport with all her teachers, including 7 men and 2 women. Mr. Teasing, the old fogey, who teaches maths, was annoyed with me for ages because I taught so much. She tells us that there is an exception. There is one teacher who's not very happy with her. For the simple reason, she talks too much. She admits herself she is a talkative girl, and Mr. Keesing is a bit conservative teacher. He is a bit old-fashioned one who is a bit opinionated and is not ready to change his thoughts, his views about students and class, its decorum, which is why he is not very happy with her behavior. After several warnings, he assigned me extra homework, an essay on the subject, a chatterbox. A chatterbox? What can you write about that? I'll worry about that later, I decided. I jotted down the title in my notebook, tucked it in my bag, and tried to keep quiet. But on that day, limits were crossed, and Mr. Keesing decides to give her some punishment. And that punishment is writing an essay on the topic, a chatterbox. She jotted that down, she wrote the topic in her notebook, and then she kept quiet for the whole day. That evening, after I had finished the rest of my homework, the note about the essay caught my eye. After having finished her homework, she noticed the topic of the essay that was given to her to write as a punishment. I began thinking about the subject while chewing the tip of my fountain pen. Anyone could ramble on and leave big spaces between the words. But she started thinking about what to write on the topic. She says, anyone could have written on the topic without giving it a thought, without any focus, and leaving big spaces in between words, and the job is done. But then she has got a different mindset. But the trick was to come up with convincing arguments to prove the necessity of talking. But this girl, Annie, thinks that she is going to write a convincing write-up where she would assert herself, assert her point of view, and prove the necessity of talking right. I thought and thought. Suddenly I had an idea. So an idea clicked. She started writing. I wrote the 3 pages Mr. Keesing had assigned me and was satisfied. Annie is not satisfied until she has written a 3-page long essay full of convincing arguments that her talking in the class is justified. I argued that talking is a student's trait and that I would do my best to keep it under control, but that I would never be able to cure myself of the habit since my mother talked as much as I did, if not more, and that there is not much you can do about inherited traits. So what she writes in the essay is that it's her characteristic quality, and she'll try to do her best to keep it under control. But the fact of the matter is, it being an inherited trait from her mother, she is not able to cure herself entirely of this problem. Mr. Keesing had a good laugh at my arguments, but when I proceeded to talk my way through the next lesson, he assigned me a second essay. Having read her arguments, Mr. Keesing had a hearty laugh. But when he noticed that Annie is not ready to stop talking, he gave her another essay, a second one, as a punishment. This time, it was supposed to be an incorrigible chatterbox. I handed it in, and Mr. Keesing had nothing to complain about for 2 whole lessons. The topic of another essay which he gets is an incorrigible chatterbox, one who cannot be corrected. Annie writes the essay, hands it over to Mr. Keesing, and for next 2 lessons, nothing happens. Everything remains under control. However, during the 3rd lesson, he had finally had enough. Annie Frank, as punishment for talking in class, write an essay entitled "Quack, Quack, Quack," said Mistress Chatterbox. The class roared. I had to laugh too, though I'd nearly exhausted my ingenuity on the topic of chatterboxes. Annie is unable to hold her horses for long. In the 3rd lesson, she does what she is best at. She starts talking. And when the limit is crossed, Mr. Keesing gave her a punishment. This time again, she gets an essay to write on the topic "Quack, Quack, Quack," said Mistress Chatterbox. When the topic is announced, the class burst into laughter. She tries to save her face. She too joins the class in laughter. But the problem is, she is almost run out of her ingenuity, her originality. What to do? She's just wondering. It was time to come up with something else, something original. My friend, Sunny, who's good at poetry, offered to help me write the essay from beginning to end in verse, and I jumped for joy. Annie takes up the punishment positively. She wants to write something new, something original, and her friend comes to her rescue. She offers her help and she tells Annie that she can help her write a poem. Annie gets quite excited about it. Mr. Keesing was trying to play a joke on me with this ridiculous subject, but I'd make sure the joke was on him. Annie thinks that giving this absurd, ridiculous subject again and again to her, Mr. Keesing is actually trying to embarrass her, to play a joke on her, to make fun of her in front of the entire class. So she decides to write something which actually turns the table on the teacher. I finished my poem and it was beautiful. It was about a mother duck and a father swan with 3 baby ducklings who were bitten to death by the father because they quacked too much. Creative as she is, she comes up with a beautiful poem which she admires herself. The poem is about a mother duck and a father swan. Father swan gets irritated by the quaking of its babies and bites all of them to death. It's quite clear that the comment is on Mr. Keesing. Luckily, Mr. Keesing took the joke the right way. He read the poem to the class, adding his own comments and to several other classes as well. Fortunately for Annie, Mr. Keesing takes the joke positively. He stays calm and he doesn't stop there. He goes to several other classes, reading the poem, adding his own comments to that. Since then, I have been allowed to talk and haven't been assigned any extra homework. On the contrary, Mr. Keesing's always making jokes these days. Here we notice, as opposed to Annie's perception,
Dear students,
Mr.
please log on
Keesing
to part
happens
2
to
of
be
this
a
video
very
for the explanation of rest
and
of the lesson.
adaptable teacher.
The link for the
He is
same
ready
has been
to
provided
change
herewith.
himself, and
Hope you like the
therefore
video.
he allows
Please like, share
Annie
and
to
subscribe
talk
the channel
because he
and press
understands
the bell icon
it's a
for the
basic
latest
nature,
videos. Thank
and
you.
one's basic nature can't be changed. He stops giving her any extra homework, and not only this, he has started cracking jokes himself. Yours, Annie. Dear students, hope you like the story, which is replete with humorous instances. It has a very beautiful message to convey, and that is, one doesn't need to blurt out everything to everybody. As Annie says, paper has more patience than people. So, in the absence of a true friend, if you feel like giving a vent to your thoughts and sharing your secrets, then a diary can suffice. It also very subtly conveys the idea that a teacher should ensure a student doesn't lose pride in oneself while correcting him. In fact, it is an opportunity as one can hone the skills of one's students using the concepts of constructive punishment. Students too should take that in stride.
Dear students, hope you liked the video. Please like, share and subscribe Angrejimaster and press the bell icon for the notification of our latest videos. Thank you.